you be that blind to be like, everyone's racist towards me, I hate the Aboriginals? Hello users of the internet and welcome to my YouTube channel. If you're one of my current 753 subscribers, then welcome back. And if you're not, to be fair, that's probably the right choice. I am back here today basically to vent about some things that have recently happened in my life. I don't want to call it a story time because I don't want to pretend that my life's interesting enough for there to be a story time about it. So let's just call this a little monologue, a little rant about society and how much I hate it. So recently, despite the fact that I'm literally 20 years old, I had a job supervising university exams. My grandparents hooked me up with it, they had connections. You need to know people in this industry to get ahead. So I finessed my way through and got myself this coveted position. Now I did it last year for 2 semesters, so you know at this point I have a grasp on the job. And the way this exam supervision works is that there are 2 people of equal rank in the same room. One exam supervisor will do the announcements and run the exam, and the other one will hand out the papers and check IDs at the door, and then every exam you'll swap to make it even. So first day I get there, I go in, I'm ready. I sign in at 8:35 for an 8:40 start, I go to the bathroom, I head up to my room, I get there at literally 8:41. And the 61-year-old woman who is my co-worker for the next 2 weeks, who let's, for the purposes of anonymity, call Sharon, as soon as I walked into the room was like, "Good evening." No hello, no hi, my name's Sharon, nice to meet you, no what's your name, are you my co-worker? Good evening. I guess I could have got offended, but I hate confrontation and I don't want to start something on the first day. So I was just like, actually I got here on time, I just went to the bathroom. Even though I didn't have to account to her where I was because she's not my boss. Anyway, I was like, "Hi, I'm Annabelle," and she was like, "Yeah, I'm Sharon, you must be new." So you could say from the get-go, I was receiving some pretty hostile vibes from Sharon. She instantly went on a little rant about herself. She was like, "Hi, I'm from the Gold Coast. I fly down specifically to supervise these exams in Sydney. I'm 61 years old. I have a boyfriend who I live with. I have $600 veneers. Here's a photo of the $2,000 solar panels I just bought." Literally just goes on a rant about her entire life, medical history, family history. So in the first 5 minutes of meeting her, I know everything there is to know about Sharon. And honestly, to this day, I would severely doubt that she knows my last name. One time, offhandedly, she did ask me what I was interested in, and I was like, "Oh, I'm into acting," and she was like, "Cool, yeah," and that was the end of that. When the actual first exam started, I could definitely see a power imbalance begin to form. She basically treated me like her assistant, and I think at one point referred to me as her assistant. But you know, I get it, there's an age gap, respect your elders, whatever. I just kind of sucked it up and took it, because at the end of the day we were being paid the same amount, so joke's on her. But things began to get increasingly problematic. She had a really weird approach to exams. Before every exam each morning she'd be like, "Our aim is to catch a student cheating." And I don't know if it's because I'm young and am a student myself, but I feel like our job as exam supervisors is to try and create a comfortable environment for the students to come in. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I've got too soft a touch and the kids are criminals and we should just assume that. But you know, I thought that that was instantly a weird mindset to have. So she would stalk up and down the aisles, stare at the students, they'd look up like, "What are you doing?" And she'd look down like, "I hate you. 1 foot out of line and we're going to the exams office. And if all else fails, jail." And then a thing that struck me as particularly odd is if a student would put up their hand and be like, "Can I please have more extra paper?" She'd say, "No, that's not allowed." And my instinct is telling me that is allowed. But Sharon was apparently like, "Screw your conclusion. You have big writing, you have big problems." One time in an exam it said that during reading time the students were allowed to write on the exam paper for the 10 minutes before their exam started. So you know, students are doing just that and writing away, and Sharon goes up to one girl, confiscates her paper, rips it up, fills out an incident report form, and you know, with everything else, I'd stayed silent. No extra paper? No worries. Yelling at the students and treating them like prisoners of war? Go ahead. But this was like against the rules, so I had to be like, sorry Sharon, excuse me, the students are actually allowed to write on their exam paper during reading time. I'm sorry, I announced it, I'm sorry. And Sharon was not happy. She was basically forced to go over to the student and apologize, and then resented me, I feel, from that point on. That's when her insults began to get more personal. The next day I walked in, she looked me up and down and was like, "Oh, I see you're a fan of the miniskirt." I'm sorry, but in 2018, did you just skirt shame, dare I say, slut shame me in this liberal climate? I mean, I wasn't actually offended, I low-key found it funny, but still, that's a rude thing to say to your equal. I didn't clap back, I just like awkwardly laughed because what else was I supposed to do? What response did she want from me? But Sharon kept going. She was like, so do you own a skirt that's longer? So I said, well, Sharon, I am 20, so not really. It's not really a part of my wardrobe. And then she said, I personally don't own a skirt that's above the knee. And I was thinking, well, of course you don't, Sharon, because you're 61 years old. But you know, in fear of sharing my opinion and starting any kind of conflict, I just awkwardly laughed. What you gonna do? So the morning exam started, I was doing the announcements. I literally announced twice that in this exam there is no writing permitted at all during reading time, but there was one student who did end up writing on their paper. I don't blame them. Students are frazzled, they're focused on something else, no big deal. But it was a big deal to Sharon. She stormed over to this student, snatched her paper, ripped it up, got her a new one, filled out an instant report, and okay, this is the protocol. I'm not gonna shame Sharon for being by the book. Would I personally do that? No. But Sharon's hard line. I have begrudging respect for that. But then after the exam, Sharon confronted me and was like, do you know why that student probably wrote on their paper during reading time? Because I hope you don't take offense to this, no offense, but you're very monotone when you speak, so she probably just got bored and just zoned out and didn't listen to you. At this insult, I was offended because this was coming from a 61-year-old woman who spoke on one note like this. So I just feel like that was very personal and very unnecessary. But what did I do? I just awkwardly laughed. But also at the same time, I feel like Sharon didn't completely hate me, or at the very least just needed some kind of breathing figure to talk to. Because before and after exam, she confided me about literally everything in her life. And that's when I found out why Sharon and I weren't getting along, why there was some sort of inherent personality clash. This is when I found out that Sharon is a giant racist. She was talking to me about some student who was doing their exam and she was like, oh, the Asians, they pretend to be so innocent, but they know. She didn't really elaborate, but she was like, you know, and I was like, I don't. But look, one racist comment from a 61-year-old, maybe I can let go. Perhaps I can let it slide. This next one I can't let slide. She was telling me about how her car windows were bashed in an IKEA car park, and I was like, oh, Sharon, that's awful, that's horrible. What happened? She was like, I don't know. Probably the Aboriginals. How she exists, I don't know. I couldn't even awkwardly laugh at that one. I was appalled. Not that Sharon noticed, because she only listens to herself. But then more things started to come out. She asked me if I voted yes or no in the 2017 gay marriage legalization vote that we had, and I said I voted yes, and she said, really? Ew, I voted no. Then she told me that she hated Muslim journalist Waleed Ali from The Project, and that she, quote, wanted to punch Australian legend and gay rights activist Magda Zabansky in the face, and that Prue McSween was her hero and icon.
The Aborigines were, I believe, reasonably well treated.
And that she loves Donald Trump, and he's done wonders for America and done literally everything he said he's gonna do. I'm sorry, Sharon, but is there a wall between the US and Mexico? Is Hillary Clinton in prison? Food for thought. But that's when it all clicked for me. This woman is Satan. Frankly, I've given up hope. Generational turnover will sort her out. But the next day I come into work before the exam and Sharon is visibly upset. I don't ask her what's wrong because, to be honest, I don't care. But don't worry, she tells me. She said that the night before she went to dinner with one of her friends from Sydney, they were talking, and then her friend used a derogatory slur about Italian and Greek people. I'm not gonna repeat it, but it rhymes with cog, so put two and two together. And Sharon took offense to this because of her Greek heritage. And she started crying in front of me. She's sobbing. This 61-year-old woman is sobbing 5 minutes before we have to let students into the room. And she said, I just can't believe people could be so racist. Well, Sharon, I can't believe people could be so ignorant and hypocritical. I was flawed. I'm still flawed. How can someone not see the irony? And then, perhaps the most hilariously hypocritical sentence I have ever heard in my life, through tears, Sharon said, without the Greeks, this country would just be full of convicts and Aboriginals. I can't. I almost laughed in her face. Anyway, the next day was the final day of exams, the last day I would ever have to see this woman again. And despite the constant patronization, you must be new, the personal offensive remarks, you're very monotone when you speak, the blatant racism, probably the Aboriginals, the blatant homophobia, ew, I voted no. Just all round offensive comments. I said, look, Sharon, it's been lovely working with you. And in response, while she's half turned away, she's not even looking at me, she's on her way out, she like half turns around and says, have a good acting course, bye. What does that mean? She'd taken the one speck of information that she knew about me that I was interested in acting and told me to have a good acting class? Was that a metaphor for like acting career longevity in the industry? I highly doubt it. I think this woman's an idiot. And you know, this is a bit petty. This isn't really relevant, but I'm just gonna insert a photo of what she was wearing on this final day of exams. A skirt above the knee. Do you own a longer skirt, Sharon? I'm sorry, I can't. And that's all I have for you. I hope you enjoyed this cathartic rant about a terrible human being. And I'll see you next time. Thank you so much for watching. Bye. I want to die.